bad.
What is up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo Vins, also known as Ricky Friends, and a great episode for you today. Returning guest and dear friend, Brian Festa from the CT Freedom Alliance and We The Patriots USA. He's been on my podcast a bunch of times. He is a constitutional lawyer, attorney. He is on the front lines fighting for so many of the issues that listeners of this show and myself are very passionate about. The right to have religious exemptions for vaccines, mandatory face masks, and all these other issues that I feel like are super important. And to be in the front lines doing this work and trying to gather money to deal with all the expenses of doing this work, I mean, I just can't thank this guy enough for what he's doing. And that's why I've helped him quite a bit in regards to networking with so many other like-minded people who are fighting for the same things or be interested in helping the same causes. You know, you probably have heard him on Macroaggressions, on Grimerica, all these other shows. And I'm glad that I'm not good at many things, but I'm glad that I'm at least good at networking and meeting cool people and then getting those cool people to network with each other. So I've been doing that a lot. Obviously, I've been doing that with the Union of The Unwanted with help from Sam Tripoli, Midnight Mike, and Charlie Robinson. And I continue to do that. So throughout the years, I've been very lucky to meet a lot of really awesome people and gained the trust and respect of a lot of really awesome people. So I'm just trying to take advantage of that and use that for some good. And that's networking these people. So we talk about all those issues and more on this show. Definitely check out CT Freedom Alliance. He'll let you know what social media platforms he's on and all that stuff on the show, but I'll also put those links in the show description, so check that out. Speaking of the show description, now you can find the Ripple Effect Podcast on BitChute. We have a float page for the Ripple Effect Podcast. I also have a personal page, so follow me on both those pages. And then I'm on Odyssey/Library. I don't know which one you're using, but they're kind of the same website, but Odyssey looks better, and Library has an app. So I use a little bit of both. I think Odyssey, if you're on a Fire Stick or you want to stream it to your TV, you can go to odyssey.com. And it looks nice. It looks like YouTube. It works like YouTube and way better than YouTube. And I say that because Odyssey, you can actually go down rabbit holes. And so many of your content creators that you love that were on YouTube and Twitter and all these other platforms you like, they're all gone. And guess what? Many of them are on Odyssey. So definitely check that out. In the show description, I have links to our Odyssey page, my float page, my BitChute page, all those places, which is great because this morning YouTube was down and I'm like, holy shit, they finally deleted my channel. And then I realized that all of YouTube was down. I was thinking to myself, perfect timing, because finally I'm on all these other platforms. So if you go to my float page, if you go to my YouTube page, if you go to my website, rippleeffectpodcast.com, you go to any of those, you'll find links to all these other platforms. So it doesn't matter which one you go to. I try to make it easy. So if you go to one of my pages, my YouTube channel, my float page, my website, wherever you may go, you'll have links to all these other places. So it's easy to find. And in the show description, I always have links to all these other platforms. So definitely follow me, subscribe, rate, all that stuff, thumbs up. And eventually I'll be monetizing on these other platforms too. So that's super exciting. Obviously, with the holidays right around the corner, money's tight. I mean, my wife works in the restaurant business. We know firsthand how the state of Massachusetts and many other states are killing small businesses. I think the uncertainty of the future is scaring people financially, and there's still people who are scared of this virus, even though really there's nothing to be afraid of unless you're really old or you have a super sensitive immune system. But that information is harder and harder to find. which is why I'm so glad I'm on Odyssey, because you can actually find alternative information and research, just like many of us were doing 10, 15, 20 years ago when we're going down rabbit holes on YouTube and Googling things and actually finding interesting researchers and alternative points of views on so many of the topics we're intrigued with. So definitely check out and support those platforms. I can't thank Matt from Content Safe enough, because he's the one who's helped me out with transferring, 288 episodes or whatever it is, 287 episodes on all these other platforms. Shout out to Matt from Content Safe to help me out with that. And thank you to Jeremy from Odyssey and Aaron and Kinsley from Float. Thank you for being willing to create alternatives and hopefully eventually the mainstream platforms that honestly cares about sharing all different perspectives and not censoring people and freedom of speech and all these things that I find super important. So it's nice that now there's some awesome platforms that we can go to and the information is not controlled. We can look up any perspective and opinion we want. We can explore all of them and come up with our own conclusions, and that's awesome. So what else? The Union of The Unwanted also, like I've told you guys, has become its own show. It has its own RSS feed, has its own YouTube channel, has its own Float page, all its own pages. If you go to the Union of Unwanted YouTube channel, we'll have links to all those other platforms. And if you go, we also have a Twitter account, Instagram account, so you'll find links to all these other platforms. But now it's going to be exclusively there, so that's awesome. It'll be its own show every other Monday, but the next one's on the 14th. I hope to get this out. It's actually the 14th. I'm hoping to get it out before tonight's show at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to attempt to live streaming on our Union of the Unwanted YouTube channel, so we're crossing our fingers that's going to work. If not, then it'll be on the YouTube channel uploaded eventually in the Float page, and it'll also be on the RSS feed, which is it's on iTunes and it's on a bunch of other platforms. Last time I checked, it wasn't on Spotify, but it should be on Spotify soon. And also all the Patreon supporters, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting the show. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the show when I know money's tight, times are tough. I want to make sure you guys understand that I truly, truly appreciate what you guys are doing to go in your pockets and personally invest in these projects and what I'm doing. I truly believe there's value in what I'm doing. I believe in the Ripple Effect podcast. I believe in the Union of the Unwanted. I'm so appreciative of the amazing conversations I've been able to share with people, the amazing guests I've been able to share with people, and I think these are really important conversations and guests. Dr. Brzezinski, Dr. Seafried, recently Dr. Madej, and Dr. Northrup. I mean, so many amazing people sharing interesting and important work. And then some of the amazing guests that I've been able to have join on the Union of the Unwanted. I get all these people to network and help up-and-coming shows. I mean, it's really been awesome. There's a lot of great up-and-coming shows that really make me feel good about the future of podcasting. I've been interviewed on a bunch of really great shows, and I do have a interview playlist on my YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. I'm also starting a clip channel on my YouTube channel. So if any of you guys want to help support the show or help with the show, JRE and a lot of other podcasts, they put clips up, short little clips of interesting parts of the conversation, or a quote, or something that was said, or a short portion of the conversation that you found super interesting and stuck with you. If you want to cut that out and use it on a YouTube video, I will put it in the playlist, regardless what channel it's on or whatnot. I'll put it in the playlist, and it'll be your way of helping out. And hopefully, if they like that clip, they'll go and check out the whole episode. So on Patreon, I am going to start doing video updates. I did one this morning, and I'm hoping to continue doing that. So give you guys another reason to help support the show on Patreon. I am trying to do this value for value thing. So if you get value out of the show, then please try to give some value back. If you can support on Patreon, that's awesome. If you can't, it's okay. Feel free to review, rate the show, share the show, post the show anywhere you want, get these conversations out there anywhere you want. And that helps a great deal. Obviously, if a small percentage of people who listen to the show donated $1, I could do this full time. And that's really is the goal, to do this full time. Because like I said, I truly believe this stuff is important. I want to keep it open source. So the goal is finding creative ways to do this full time, but still with open source work. And people like James Corbett has done it. So I'm hoping I can also do it. I also have a merch store, by the way. So a merch store, the Ripple Effect Podcast merch. If you guys want to help support the show, I have hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, some youth clothes, mugs, all that stuff. Check that out. That will also be in the show description. And this intro, I think, has been long enough. Enjoyed the conversation. Make sure to subscribe to the Union of The Unwanted. Make sure to rate the show, review the show, all that stuff. And I think that's it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. But thanks for being with me, Brian. It's been a while since we talked. I think last time we talked, you were on one of the Union of The Unwanted shows. I think that was the one with G.Edward Griffin, and which was awesome. And that show's now become its own show. We've kind of it just keeps growing, and we, the four of us, me, Charlie, and Sam, kind of been going back and forth about the future of it, and we decided that it only makes sense now that it's growing at such a large rate to give it its own platform, its own place, and kind of continue doing it. So I'm excited.
I agree. It's awesome. I loved being on. I'm looking forward to joining you this Monday, hopefully. And you have another one coming up on the 14th, right? So.
Yep, that's Monday the 14th. We're going to try to continue doing it every other Monday at 7 p.m. like we've been doing. And as it grows, and hopefully we keep getting awesome guests. It's been a lot of hustling. Similar to yourself, I know when you did that 24-hour marathon, like I just could imagine the work it would take to like organize everything, make sure everybody knew when they were going to come on, all that stuff. So it's like I kind of feel like that for every Union of the Unwanted. Like I start hitting up people quickly, and then you're always concerned. It's almost like when you're throwing a party, right? Like you're like, okay, I don't want to give too many people the invite, or it might be too many people showing up. But if I don't give enough people and the invite, and then nobody might show up if some of the people bail last second. So it's like that's kind of how those shows are, where it's like I don't want to invite too many people, and then it's like impossible for everybody to get a word in. But then if I don't invite enough people, and because it happens quite often where somebody who's supposed to be on, or a couple of people that are supposed to be on, told me, yeah, I'll definitely be there. Don't, at the last second can't make it. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like trying to balance this all out. But the nice thing about all of us having our own shows is that you can take those guests that you want to hear more one-on-one conversations with and do it on those platforms. And then if you want the huge roundtable discussion type thing, we have the Union of The Unwanted, right. So people kind of get a little bit of both, and I think both are necessary, because the nice thing about the Union of The Unwanted is that you do get people from different backgrounds, different researchers. A lot of people are content creators, so they're talking to different doctors, different researchers, different authors, so they can kind of bring all those perspectives together. And it's the wisdom of crowds. We bring all our ideas together, and we filter out the bad ideas and keep the good ideas. So it kind of works in our favor in that regard. So, but I also think that these type of discussions where you can go much deeper, just one-on-one, right, is also very important and crucial. So last time you're on, I know obviously the whole mask thing was going on. Do you have any updates on that? And I know you also been trying to put together some funding and trying to, because obviously none of this is cheap.
Right. Well, actually, last time you called, I think it was our very last week, our very last push to raise money for the appeal for the Connecticut school mask lawsuit. So we filed, for those of you who are listening that may not know, we filed a lawsuit against the state of Connecticut Department of Education, alleging that the masks, the requirement to wear masks in school for all children is both not only unnecessary and not only ineffective at preventing the spread of COVID, but also extremely harmful, both physically, emotionally, psychologically to these children. And so we laid out a case, a very strong case, including over 1,000 pages of documentary evidence, 4 expert witnesses we had presented. And unfortunately, that motion for a temporary injunction was denied. The court said that wasn't enough evidence, and basically said that the scientific consensus, that the consensus is that masks are good and they work, and there's very little harm, and therefore there's no emergency. So again, just going with what the majority says. Now we know, you and I know, Ricky, and a lot of other people listening know, that the majority is a poisoned majority. The majority is a bought and paid for majority. The majority is not speaking in the best interest of public health. That's very, very clear. And there's no basis in law that I know, as you know, that I've ever studied, that a case that I've ever come across that says the court must accept or should accept whatever the consensus is in a given community. If the majority say it, that makes it true. I've never heard that theory. I don't know what legal theory that is, but we disagree with the judge's decision respectfully, and that's why we filed an appeal. We were able to raise the money. I do want to say we had a very, very generous angel investor that dropped in literally minutes before, within an hour, but we filed the appeal minutes before the deadline on Sunday night.
It was obviously Bill Gates.
It wasn't Bill Gates. It wasn't Bill Gates. It wasn't Melinda either. But we did get an investor to come in and help us, because we were quite a long ways off of our goal. Now, we still need to raise money. That was just to fund the appeal. This person paid for enough for us to fund the appeal and our legal expenses that we had incurred, so it's just enough to cover that. But the case goes on in the lower court. The state has filed a motion to dismiss to try to get rid of the case now, so we still have to fight against that. And then if we aren't successful in getting it transferred directly, because we're trying to get transferred directly to the Supreme Court of Connecticut rather than having to go through that middle intermediary appellate court level. If that's not honored, though, if that's not accepted, we have to go through 2 stages of appeal. So there'll be more money that's needed. There's just a lot of work. And then, of course, even if we win on the motion to dismiss, that's wonderful and everything, whether we win or we don't. If we don't, we have to appeal that ruling now. And if we do win on the motion to dismiss, well, that means the case gets fully litigated and there's a full trial, which is going to be way more expensive than anything we've done to date. So please, I encourage everybody to continue to donate. We have a fundraiser still active. It is go on gogetfunding.com. So if you go to gogetfunding.com/CT mask lawsuit, you will find it there. Or in the alternative, you can go to ctfreedomalliance.org, and there's a button at the top of the page that says click here. It's a long rectangular blue button. Click here to donate to the Connecticut School Mask lawsuit. So that's basically an update on the lawsuit. There's a lot of other things I can talk about, though, and a lot of other things I'd like to talk about besides just the mask lawsuit. We received word today, for one. I'll just sort of, if you don't mind, lead the conversation in this direction now. We received word today. I received word from the press because they wanted a statement from me, but I received a word that the legislators in Connecticut are going to seek to repeal the religious exemption, as we expected, the religious exemption to mandatory childhood vaccination. But not only are they going to seek to repeal it, but it's at the top of their agenda. So it's like one of the first things they're going to do when they get in a few weeks, in about 3 weeks, when they start. That's like at the very top of their agenda to make sure that religious exemption is gone. So they're coming after us hard once again. We expected this. The reporter asked about COVID mandates and whether or not, although at this time they're not talking about a COVID-19 vaccine mandate, whether or not she thought that they would mandate that. And I said, absolutely. Once they get the chance, they're going to try to do that. See, there's no COVID vaccine that's been approved for use in children yet. So they can't mandate it right at the moment. But you better believe if that's approved anytime during this session, and it's a long one this year, January through June. So anytime before June, they could amend it, even if it's not in the original bill, and add that to the schedule. And once it gets added to the schedule, they're going to mandate it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just driving me nuts. The thing is, a lot of these issues were things way before the COVID thing happened, were the focus of a lot of us in the alternative media. I mean, the religious exemption thing and the vaccine debate, like a lot of people who are new to this whole vaccine debate, because they seem like, oh, now everybody's talking about vaccines. Should we trust them? Should we not trust them? All this stuff. Little do they know, before this whole COVID thing, there's been a battle between big pharma and corrupt politicians who either don't know any better or could care less, and the rest of us. And so this whole religious exemption thing, this was in conversations way before the COVID thing. And that's why organizations like yours and what you're doing is so important, because of, everything that's going on. But I've heard some conversations about like the possibly giving people like a stimulus check if they get vaccinated. Have you heard any crazy things like that?
Yes, $1,500 is what they're looking at. They were proposing that, and I think it was being proposed to Biden, or that he said he was going to propose that. I think, listen, that's absolutely the sickest thing ever. If you come, I mean, well, I guess they should just call it what it is, right? And then it wouldn't be so sick. Become part of our study. Become part of our clinical trial, because it's still a clinical trial. Okay, this is not, except it's not being done in a clinical fashion. That's the problem. It's not being done in any ethical fashion. But people do that all the time, right? Or scientists do that all the time. Researchers do that all the time, to say, we'll pay you to be in this study. That's okay. But they tell you up front, it's experimental. We don't know what's going to happen to you. There's a lot of risk, but we'll pay you if you do it. That I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with that, because you're telling the person right up front, this is experimental. We don't know what's going to happen to you. Okay, this is what we think might happen to you, but we don't know for sure what's going to happen to you. If they were fully honest about it, that's informed consent. I'm all for that. I'm all for informed consent when it comes to vaccines. I don't think vaccines should be banned. There are some people that do in our movement that think they should be banned completely. I don't. I personally believe in informed consent. I believe people should be given all the information. They should know the risks and make the decision there. And as I say that, I would be remiss if I did not mention that we lost a great warrior yesterday, a freedom fighter, medical freedom fighter, for many years, by the name of Brandy Vaughn. I don't know if you know Brandy, or if you knew Brandy, I should say. She was only 37, and unfortunately, she was taken away way too young. She was the founder of Learn the Risk, learntherisk.org. Which is a wonderful repository of information. If anyone out there gets a chance to look at it, if you haven't been to the website before, go there. Every possible topic related to vaccines that you could think of, she's got on there. She unfortunately was found unresponsive by her son, yesterday, and her 8-year-old son, and she doesn't really have any family, or didn't have any family living near her or in the country. Actually, her parents live in France. So it's a very sad situation. It's my understanding he's now in custody of the state, and we know that nothing good happens then, especially considering the fact that she fought for so many years to keep him protected. He was unvaccinated. And once you put a child in the custody of the state, they're not going to remain unvaccinated. I can tell you that right now. So it's very, very sad what happened to her. And we don't know what happened exactly. I'm hearing all kinds of conspiracy theories about pharma being involved and everything else. I'm not going to speculate on that because, number one, out of respect for her death, but not only that, I don't have the information to be speculating on that. I do know I did receive some screenshots of some conversations she had with other activists in which she was concerned about that, though, Ricky. She was worried that they might be targeting her and that something might happen and that she could be even poisoned. She had talked about that. And she had actually requested, it's my understanding, had requested that if anything happens to me, please start a GoFundMe to try to get some private investigators on my case. So she actually did conceive of this as a possibility. So I'll just leave it there. But I want to honor her memory. She was one of the ones that paved the way. I mean, she had been in this longer than most anyone that I know anyway, in my circles. And she was a great inspiration, and we're just very, very sorry. It's a tragic loss for the medical freedom community. She put billboards up all over the country. I don't know if you ever saw learntherisk.org. You saw the big billboards. She put them everywhere. They were on New York City subways. They were on the bus station, whatever that's called. Hold on, sorry, my son.
No problem. Yeah.
She had those billboards and those signs up everywhere. And it was just amazing how she did that. She did it completely on her own. From my understanding, she was a one-woman show. She didn't really have a staff. She had some college interns, I guess, but for the most part, she did everything herself, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Because I can't imagine. I mean, I don't really have a big staff, but at least, Dawn and I work together. We do have a couple of volunteers. I at least have someone to work with, to partner with. I can't imagine doing this kind of activism completely by myself.
Yeah, but I mean, the important thing is you're not by yourself, right? I mean, we're all in this community together. I love the fact that when I got to meet you guys, and I don't even remember, it's funny how like throughout the whole journey of podcasting, like so many of the cool people and interesting people and important people I've met, like it just everybody has like a different, it's a different story on how I met them and whatnot. And I can't remember. I think somebody suggested you guys to me or
Yes.
something.
So your friend Matt, do you know? Should I mention his last name? But your friend Matt, who's I think is he a corrections officer, or am I thinking of the right person, or is that a different Matt?
Maybe.
Matt in Western Massachusetts, it's not too far from where you live. They originally lived. I think they're in Connecticut now. They are in Connecticut now. Matt and Jen.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay, I didn't know if I want to mention their last name. Matt and Jack, they're faithful listeners, so they're probably listening. A shout out to them. They're great warriors. I think they're in the northern part of the state, but they used to be in Western Massachusetts. And I had connected with Jen, and she suggested that that I get on this podcast because it was really the bomb. So I'm glad that she did.
Is that a quote? Is that exact quote?
That's sort of a paraphrase, but I'm showing my age because people don't really use that phrase anymore. But
The podcast was fire.
well, you are the bomb. You're awesome, Ricky. I mean, I enjoyed listening to you. I enjoyed being on your show. I enjoyed the Union of the Unwanted. I think you've got great. I'm not here to plug you, obviously, and he didn't ask me to say this, folks, but I think that you've got great content and you're doing a great service about a range of issues. You don't only talk about vaccines, obviously, but this is one topic that comes up pretty frequently. So I'm very fortunate to have this connection.
Yeah. I just had Dr. Madej on, Carrie Madej on, who's awesome. And then I just had on Dr. Northrup, who I just uploaded the show, I think yesterday or today, this morning. And she's awesome too.
Put me in touch with her. I've been meaning to get in touch with her. So if you can do that, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. It's connecting. And like I said, I mean, when we met and then I started telling people about like, hey, get these guys from the CT Freedom Alliance on your show, and then to see you, talk to Charlie and the Gry America guys. It was just it's awesome because it really is a community. Even when we started, like I wanted the Ripple Effect podcast to become a community. So the Union of the Unwanted was like a perfect way to really get people to meet and kind of cross pollinate and whatnot. And so it's been a awesome project and making that type of dream of like getting everybody to work together and help each other out and promote each other, because it's not a competitive thing. Like the thing about podcasting is if somebody subscribes to somebody else's show, it doesn't mean they can't be subscribed to my show. So I have no reason to compete with anybody. And the way I look at it, it's like if I don't agree with everything, but we're all fighting for the same things, then we're on the same team, and it's okay if we disagree on certain details or whatnot. So it's really been awesome to help people connect. I mean, in the past, I've, like I always say, I've had help. I've had help with, just people who take the time to come on. I mean, like I still say, like I have a soft spot for James Corbett because he was one of the first guests that were on my show. And also on often. He was on all the time. People were always like, how do you get James Corbett on? How do you get and I'm like, I don't know. I guess he likes me, and throughout the years we connected and we did a lot of shows. And I know he helped a lot because he would always post my stuff on his website and help bring.
Well, he's another one I'd like to get in touch with, Ricky. So if you can send him my way too.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
If you guys have a rapport, then on your recommendation, no, you're absolutely right. This is how it happens because people have asked me the same thing. We had the frontline doctors on, and you can go watch. Right now we're still in the process because we don't have a lot of tech support. We're trying to get all of our video content, all of our interviews uploaded to our website. So they're not all on our website yet, but they are on our Twitter feed. You can find that's the one place for some reason they haven't been censored. Now, as soon as I said that, they're all going to be taken down. But Periscope and Twitter, if you go to @KeepCTFree, every program we've done recently is in there. Policing a Pandemic with Sheriff Richard Mack and Ralph Friedman, most decorated NYPD detective in history. Dawn and I did that one. That was an awesome show. Then we did the Frontline Doctors, Locking Down Truth, where we had Stella Emanuel, Mark McDonald and Richard Urso on for a discussion about medical censorship. That was awesome. We had just last week, we had A Matter of Trust, which was featuring Dr. Aaron Lewis, who's a very dear friend of ours, as well as Kevin Jenkins and attorney Tricia Lindsay, about the COVID-19 vaccine in the Black community, how they're trying to push this on minority communities. And they're all leaders in the Black community. We had an awesome discussion, myself and my co-host Jen, for that one. We had an awesome discussion, and that is also there at Keep CT Free. So you can find that content there. But people ask me the same thing, Ricky. They're like, well, how did you get Stella Emanuel on? Or how did you get Sheriff Mack? Or how did you get how do you know these people? It's like, I don't just know them. It's not like I've known them for years or anything like that. But when you're connected in a network that you've helped to create, you and many others, Ricky, have helped to create this network of activists, of truth tellers, truth speakers, alternative media, whatever you want to call it. You get to know people that way, and it's really a beautiful thing, and it's really happened pretty quickly for me. I mean, I've really only been in this game for probably the last 2 years. People, think that I've been doing this a really, really long time, but it doesn't take long to sort of create this network and connect with people. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it too is when people connect with you in regards to they see that you're sincere, you're really fighting for something true. You're not just talking about conspiracies or being a Q person or you're not just focused on these. You're actually trying to do something, and you're passionate, and you have a story, and it's amazing how much positive response I get just based on people liking the fact that I seem what they see is what they get. I'm not trying to sell them anything. When I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. I mean, there's been times even in our interviews when I do other people's podcasts where I'll be asked something, and then while I'm exploring how I feel on that topic, I'll be rearranging it and reflecting on it and figuring out as I'm talking about it. So it's people. I don't ever like to pretend I know any more than I do. I always say I'm an idiot. I'm just a really curious person who just is an honest, curious person who is also passionate about trying to do something with his life that's kind of more fulfilling than just working the 9 to 5, So, and I think people resent or they connect with that. And I think in your case, same thing. You and Don, obviously very passionate. You take a lot of your own personal time and energy to pursue this. And when you meet people, I think the reason why you had such a positive experience in the alternative media community is because people sense that they have you on. You have a very personal story. You're obviously motivated by all the right things, and people like that, and they're willing to help that and help help you out with your fight and what you're doing and your movement. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, there's a lot of people who've been in the alternative media world, and I know firsthand, and I've heard from other people that they're a-holes or they're know-it-alls, or they come off arrogant or cocky, or if they talk to somebody they disagree with, they immediately turn into a jerk. And I think that's a turnoff for a lot of people. So I think a lot of it is because of the personality that's behind the CT Freedom Alliance and the stories and what you're fighting for is just something that I think anybody can get behind and want to be a part of. So yeah, without a doubt, it's been awesome to help out with this. I mean, people know throughout the years I've always had a soft spot for functional medicine and health and nutrition and all these things, and topics like this, and even the ketogenic diet and all these things kind of intertwine, because it's all about chemical companies, food companies, and pharma companies all trying to make you sicker, unhealthier, and you need to get that information to fight back. And I'm very much with you in regards to my opinions on vaccines. I make it very clear that I'm not a pro or anti vaccine person. I don't know how you can be pro vaccine. That's to me that's a crazy perspective. I understand the completely anti-vaccine perspective much better, because I mean, wanting to force a vaccine on everybody to me is just insane. But
well,
to
you can
me,
be pro the product, not pro mandates.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Good point. Yeah. And so, but the thing is, I'm just like you, Brian. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I think if you get all the information and you say that the risk of not, or you assume that the risk of not taking the vaccine is greater than the risk of taking it, then I'm completely okay with that. Like, my biggest issue is the fact that I don't think it's a fair fight in regards to the information battle. Like, you're force fed one narrative, one perspective, and then you're asked to make a decision on that topic. And in many cases, a lot of people who have a strong position on it have done zero research, or if they've done research, it's almost impossible now to find anything that's from the other perspective. And that's why, like, I don't know if you listened to the last Union of the Unwanted, but the one that we did, we had representatives from Odyssey and Library, representatives from Float.app, Rockfin, and Content Safe, and they're all like alternative platforms, or they're helping alternative creators and alternative media, and so they're all, they're fighting the big tech giants, and those places are so much better than the mainstream spots because, and I've heard you say this, like, you can go to Parlor, but you're not going to get as much attention as you will on Twitter. You can go to Float, but you're not going to get as much attention as you will on Facebook. But the positive thing about like Odyssey and Library and BitChute and even Float is that if you actually want to go down some rabbit holes, if you actually want to research something and get all perspectives and different perspectives, you can actually do that. Like we used to on YouTube. Like back in the day on YouTube, I could find some kid, some guy who lives in his basement, but made some amazing documentary and did some amazing research because he was obsessive compulsive about some specific topic. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is mind blowing. Like, and yeah, it was on YouTube, but all the information's online just about. So it's like if you know how to search it and you do a good enough job researching, you can find basically all the same shit some big studio who's putting together a giant expensive documentary is going to find. So the fact that these documentaries on YouTube, it was, to me, it didn't matter if it was high quality or low quality. It was about the information. But you could do that. Now you go on YouTube and you're force fed just Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, whatever the mainstream channels are. That's all you see there. You can't find anything that goes against any mainstream news station. You can't find many of the documentaries that I know that have been on YouTube. Now you can't even find. Even when I'm recommending a show, like if somebody's like, oh, I'm really interested in this topic, I'm like, oh, I've done a show on that. And I'll try to look for it on YouTube. It doesn't come up immediately. And I'm like, wait, why isn't this coming up immediately when I know the name of the show, I know the guest, I know the number, and it doesn't come up. It's not the first search result. It's because the algorithms are going against you. They're force feeding you a narrative. So when you go on Odyssey, and this is a plug for Odyssey because Jeremy is awesome dude and the guy who created it. And when you hear people like him and Aaron and Kinsley from Float, and when they're people who are truly passionate about like having a place where things are uncensored, having a place where you can you can put your content without worrying about censorship or the platform having a agenda. It's phenomenal. And these platforms are actually, when you start using them, are equally as convenient. They don't have necessarily the capability of like hooking up to your Chromecast or whatnot, but I think Odyssey now does that. And they also, you can play things in the background. A lot of people use YouTube as a like podcast player. Like they'll just play a podcast on YouTube. Well, now you can't find jack shit on YouTube anyways, unless you want to watch how-to videos and cat videos. So if you go to Odyssey, you can actually watch some interesting stuff, and you can actually play it in the background, similar to YouTube Premium, which you have to pay for, but you can just click a video, then minimize it, and you can actually play just audio of the video. It's like Spotify does or whatnot. So it's there's actually some convenient things. And Float, you can actually take all your Facebook stuff. So I know you're on Facebook. You can take your whole Facebook archives. They have a way of doing it, and it's fairly easy, and upload it to your Float page. So you can start a Float account, and literally you don't have to do much of work at all to get everything, every post, every video, everything from your whole history on Facebook onto Float. Yeah,
really?
And you can do the same thing with Odyssey. Odyssey has a sync where you can sync your YouTube channel. And Charlie Robinson, who just did it, and I remember him text messaging me. He's like, "Hey, Jeremy wasn't kidding." He's like, because Charlie's always talking about how he's like the dumbest tech person in the group, and I think he's actually tied with probably Sam, but I'm just kidding. But Charlie did it. He's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's that, it really is that simple. He did it where he end up just syncing it to his Odyssey account. So you take all your archives on YouTube and it goes automatically to your new channel on Odyssey without having to do any work, And I know Jason Burmis, he's like, oh, how long would it take to do like 1,700 videos? I have like 1,700 videos. He's like, I don't know, a couple days, like that's it. Like it's
Wow.
it's so and content safe. And I know you said you have videos somewhere online, right, on your website. Content safe. Matt is another guy. We have a mutual friend, Richard Grove, and Richard Grove introduced me to him. Richard Grove's from Tragedy and Hope, and he has a new show called World. And he introduced me to him. And what he's doing is he's basically doing a similar thing that these other platforms are doing in regards to making your content easier to go from one platform to another. He helps you go or put your content on all the platforms. So in other words, like I'll upload it on YouTube, and I just started working with him recently, so he's doing it. I upload my stuff on YouTube. That's all I have to do, and he'll take care of uploading it on BitChute, Float, Odyssey, all the other alternative spots. So the point of it is because he's very much like a libertarian type of a open source thinker like I am, where the more places the content is at, the better, because the less likely that they can censor it. I mean, I just had like I told you, I had Dr. Northrup on, and her video with Polly, Polly Tommy from the Vax documentary, that video cannot be found anywhere, and unless you go on BitChute or you go on Odyssey. So people do take down these videos that go viral. So being able to have it everywhere, same thing with like James Corbett, he does the same thing. He posts his videos everywhere, makes it that much harder because if you only have it in one spot, they take you down there and all your shit disappears, and that's happening a lot.
Listen, I agree with you 100% on what you've said. And yeah, I mean, put me in touch with him too, so that we can get some help. We really are in desperate need of some tech help to try to get that moving and get stuff more widely distributed. As much as I said, you're right. I did say in one of our previous conversations that people shouldn't all be jumping over to Parler. I didn't mean you shouldn't create a Parler account. Just don't leave all of the main platforms. We actually did just this past week create a Parler account for our national group, which I want to give a little plug to, We The Patriots USA. I know we always talk about Connecticut Freedom Alliance, but I want to talk about We The Patriots USA for a moment, if I may. We have a Parler account at We The Patriots US, which is also the same handle as our Twitter account at We The Patriots US. But I just created the Parler account. It's brand new, so anyone who is on Parler, that enjoys Parler, that wants to start using it more, please follow us. And I'm trying to put as much content on there as possible. The other thing I really, really want to advertise is we have a Telegram channel. So for all of those of you who are on Telegram, I love Telegram personally. I think it's a great chat app. It's We The Patriots USA News channel. We The Patriots USA News channel. You can join that on Telegram. Everybody's free to join, and it's got a ton of content. I mean, Dawn manages that, and let me tell you, she does. I don't know how she finds the time of the day because she's so busy, but she every day finds like dozens and dozens and dozens of articles from all over the internet, the latest breaking news, and she stores it all there in that Telegram channel. She's a speed reader. She literally reads hundreds of articles a day. I mean, this woman, is just amazing, and how, in many ways, but in speed reading, I don't know how she can read like thousands of pages, but she does. And she sifts through it and finds the best and puts it in there. So if you haven't joined the Telegram channel, please do so because you're missing out. But yeah, BitChute, Odyssey, you mentioned. Brighteon is another great one. There's a lot of platforms for streaming video.
Brighteon is the one by Mike Adams?
Yes. By Mike Adams, the health ranger,
yeah,
right?
Because I know Dr. Carrie Madej, she has her videos on there. She has a channel, or I'm not even sure how exactly it works. So it's similar to like YouTube or Odyssey or BitChute, right? It's its own thing, and you can create your own channel.
I love it. I love BitChute too. I find that to be very. When I can't find something, like I know I saw it, just like you were describing. I know I just saw that video. Why is it on YouTube? I'm like, why am I even going to YouTube anymore? Like you said, unless you want to watch a how-to video or a cat video, maybe a cooking video or something. I'm not going onto YouTube for anything else really anymore. But Mike Adams, actually, do you know Mike? Are you connected with
Yeah,
him?
he's been on my show before. Yeah,
Would you
along.
mind? Would you mind? Now this is going to be a personal request, also on behalf of Dawn, because Dawn, she's been following him probably longer than anyone, and she is very, very much a fan of his, and has been trying. We've been trying to get in touch with him for a long time. So if I can make that my priority one request, to get us in touch with Mike, that's what all the others too, but. We would like definitely to have him on because, like I said, not only because Don's a big fan, but I am a great admirer also of the work that he does, and I'd love to have him on to talk
Yeah,
about that.
he
I've
was
actually
on.
ordered some of his survival stuff, his
Oh,
food
have you?
buckets. Yeah, I actually have them because I'm a little bit of a prepper. I mean, I don't have the stores that some people do. But definitely, I think in these uncertain times, everybody needs to be stocking up on food, water, ammunition, all of those things, because you never know when the shit hits the fan. If you're going to be without adequate stores of those things, you're going to be in big, 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 big trouble. And Mike advocates for that, obviously. And so I have some of his buckets right over there in the basement. They're great. They're great. Everything's sealed and hermetically sealed in these buckets, and they're dry foods and things that could last you for years. So I'm not here to plug him or promote him, but I just want to tell people he's got a great resource at the Health Ranger.
Yeah, email me the people we've talked about that you wanted to connect with, and I'll check because I'm trying to think. I know sometimes if it's been too long, and I've had this issue with like Jesse Ventura, for example. I think it was like last year or early this year. Maybe it was last year. I'm like, oh, let me reconnect with him. I haven't had him on in a long time, and none of the contacts that I had, I can't get a hold of anybody. Like either emails have changed or whatever has changed. So I have to find like some creative way of trying to get a hold of them again. But same thing with just some older guests I haven't talked to in a long time. So I'm gonna look for how I contacted him before. But it's been the only reason I'm bringing this up because he's one of those guests that like he was on. I mean, I've been doing this since 2013. He was probably on like the first year that I did this show or second year. So like 2014, 2015. So I'm just curious to like, even myself, if I can still get a hold of him. But I'll send you whatever I do have. And then maybe I'll actually have him back on the show because obviously starting his own platform is a big deal. And how can you talk about censorship and not talk about Mike Adams? He's been censored quite a bit, and to the point where he had to start his own channel.
Yes, absolutely. That's the reason. As Del Bigtree did as well. He had his
Yep.
Facebook page entirely deleted, the Highwire. So we're actually working. It's funny you bring this up because we're actually working on a series right now that we're going to be putting out. It's not going to be. It's going to be a live series, like a podcast thing, but live interviews called "Canceling Cancel Culture." And so we're going to have all of these different guests from. We would like to have Mike on, hopefully, as well as Dell, as well as some other people. Zach Voorhees. He was on the Union of the Unwanted. I've reached out to him as well. We're just trying to connect on trying to see if we can get him on. But we have several different people on our list that we would like who have either been censored heavily or obviously have seen it from the inside, as Zach has. But but not only in the medical freedom movement. Also, people just, people speaking all kinds of truth, whether it's politics, whether it's like some of the other programs that we've done. I told you the policing the pandemic. I mean, just because it had the word pandemic and police, I mean, actually just the police. I started advertising that event just because it was about police. That's controversial now. If you're going to have police on, that's controversial because everybody, what did they want to do to the police? They want to defund them, right? So the fact that we were doing something supportive of the police, they took it down. They said, you cannot boost this post, Facebook said, because it was about the police. And yes, it was also about pandemic, policing a pandemic is what it was called. But it's like the main reason was because I was advertising that I was having these police. I know it. because I wasn't talking. I didn't think that one would be. I knew the one with the doctors was going to be censored, okay, because nobody wants to know the truth about COVID and the treatments. I knew everything I do about vaccines is going to get censored because they don't want to know the truth about vaccines either. But I didn't think having a discussion with a couple of police officers was going to get me censored, and yet it did. And see, so this is the cancel culture we're living in. That it's in every aspect of our society, every aspect of our discussions, every topic. It's on the police. It's on the environment. If I talk about climate change, if I start questioning the controlling narrative, the prevailing narrative in climate change, I'm going to get censored. I can't talk about the environment either. I can't talk about 5G, which is a big topic that we've worked on and something that we're strongly against at both the Connecticut Freedom Alliance and We The Patriots USA. It's very, very harmful. I can't have, if I have a scientist on to talk about this, the harmful effects of 5G and how dangerous it is, and how we all need to be standing up and resisting it, that's going to get censored. Everybody, and I've said this before, I think maybe the first show I was on with you, Ricky, the smartest thing that the left did, you want to call them the left, you want to call them the Democratic Party, whatever, the smartest thing they ever did was, and the pharmaceutical industries too, it's not just about politics, the smartest thing pharma and the left ever did was purchasing the mainstream news, mainstream network news, and now later cable news. They own it. They own 70% of the news advertising, okay? So here's the thing, and actually for some stations it might be higher than that, but they own, the pharmaceutical industry that is, owns 70%, and they're in bed, of course, with the same politicians that we're fighting, because obviously they're getting their pockets lined, so they're advancing the pharmaceutical agenda. The government agencies like the CDC, they're all in bed together, the FDA, all of them. But here's the thing, they have this tremendous hold on people that they have this kind of unapproachable credibility, beyond reproach. That's the phrase I'm looking for. They're beyond reproach. You cannot question the mainstream media. And I'll give you a case in point. Just today, I saw somebody in a text thread had mentioned, well, I think their husband's friend, best friend or someone at work or whatever, he was going on a trip to Mexico. And he got the MMR vaccine before he went because his mom told him that might protect him against COVID. So because his mom said it, and you know why his mom said it, I guarantee you, I don't know her, but I guarantee you she saw it on the news. Or she read it on a New York Times article or something. There was one article that I saw that did suggest that. So on the basis of one report on the news, on cable news or online on the New York Times or CNBC or something, on the basis of one report that says there may be some benefit, it hasn't been proven, by the way, that's all speculation. On the basis of one report, she told her son, so get this, her son, because he heard it from his mother who heard it on the news, once his mom said, I heard it on the news, you should get the MMR, he ran out and got the MMR. But we can come, Ricky, with piles of studies, dozens and dozens of pages, hundreds of pages of studies. We can drop that on their lap. We can bring scientists on to speak to them, as I do on the show. I've had scientists, I've had medical doctors, people with advanced degrees who are specialists I can bring. And I can give everything I can, show them all the evidence first, and I can give them firsthand testimony of parents who've either been adults who've been injured or who have children who have been injured, seriously injured by vaccines. So I can get firsthand testimony, firsthand account. I can get dozens and dozens, hundreds of pages, if not thousands of pages of studies. And I can get the actual doctors and scientists to speak out against this. And yet they say I'm a quack. They say I'm crazy. They say it's totally illegitimate because it didn't come from the mainstream news. So this is the stranglehold that the mainstream network and cable news have on America. And it has to change. It has to stop.
Well, I think it's even worse than that because you look at it, mainstream media, you always people would always talk about the left has MSNBC, the right has Fox News. It kind of evens itself out a little bit.
Nope.
At least you have a alter. Yeah,
Not
but even
anymore.
well, no, you're right because even Fox News hasn't been very supportive in
Not
regards to
since Roger Ailes left. No.
yeah. So, but prior to that, right? But it even gets worse than that. So, okay, even if people can make that argument that like, hey, the right has a news station, the left has a news station, and then idiots watch CNN. So that's like and then so like even if you believe that, even if that was true, the problem is most people under the age of like I don't know 30, 40 get their news from social media.
Right.
And the thing about social media is that they are obviously opinionated, have agendas, have perspectives of their own, and suppress ones that go against that. And so it's not a fair battle. Like you could make the argument that okay, at least if I turn on my TV, then at least I could go to Fox News, kind of get a the right's perspective on things, and I go to MSNBC for the left's perspective on things. But the thing is, the majority of kids and even young adults, or even people my age, 35, they don't watch, TV. They don't get their news from TV. They don't watch Fox News. They don't watch MSNBC. They don't watch CNN. So when you're controlling so much of the platforms, if not all the platforms that are that people are getting the information from, then you're controlling the information, you're controlling the narrative, you're controlling the perspectives. You're so it's brainwashing. It's so and this goes back to our opinions on vaccines. It's like all I'm saying is that don't censor any opinion. You fight bad ideas with good ideas. So let everybody get all the ideas and then decide for themselves what makes the most logical sense to them. Don't decide for them what truth is. Don't decide for them what is quackery, what is this or that. Like you said, there's something about people see somebody on CNN like Bill Gates, and all of a sudden like his opinion is more valid than a actual doctor
who didn't even go to college.
Yeah, exactly.
Who didn't graduate from college?
Exactly.
Bill Gates is more of an expert than a medical doctor who's been practicing for 30 years in medicine and immunology or pediatrics or whatever. He's the expert. I mean, it's the same thing. You put up these talking heads, and I don't care if it's Bill Gates. I don't care if it's Anthony Fauci, who does have a medical degree. That doesn't matter to me. That's one person and one opinion. And yet, because that person said it on NBC or on CNN or on whatever, even these social media platforms, their voice is not censored. So that's all everyone sees. You're right about the younger generation or generations who tend to be more on social media, but still, the news still has so much credibility that they built up over the course of 100 years or more, by the way, because this is going back to the days of radio. Remember, NBC, CBS, those were radio stations originally. Those were not TV stations. So this is going back, you're talking like the 1920s. You're talking literally 100 years that they've been in existence. So
but what you're saying goes hand in hand because, like you said, like though, and I agree with you because really to almost give to make your point even more valid, those stations are the only ones that they let you share articles from on social media. Like, so it makes those channels even more valid because those are the ones that aren't being censored. So all you see that's considered news or considered that's not getting fact checked or not being censored or there's not a little warning about it are the CNNs, the CBS, the like you said, the New York Times. So the CNN. So when those articles and those video clips and those interviews are the ones being shared on social media and there's no warning behind them, you're only, like you said, like contributing to that brainwashing of creating this illusion that these are valid channels with valid people and credible people, and if you hear it on this network, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to fact check. You don't have to worry about if they're trying to sell you anything or if they have agendas. You're good to go. So like you said, it all plays hand in hand.
Mainstream media and big tech have become like gospel to people. It's literally like a religion. That is gospel, and anyone who questions, like I said, that beyond reproach, Ricky, anyone who questions this gospel of MSM and big tech is a false prophet. Don't listen to them. They're a false prophet. I am waging war on big tech. I'm saying that right now, and mainstream media. I know you are as well. I know a lot of other people are. We've had enough of it. I mean, Section 230, forget about it, throw it out. There should be no immunity. There should be no protection for these companies. They are censoring. They have become the public squares. Okay, they are the public squares.
Can you explain what section? Because a lot of people in the alternative media bring up Section 230 and they discuss it in kind of broad terms. You, as an attorney who have a better understanding of it, could you, for people listening who might not be very familiar with what exactly it means and why, could you get into it a little bit?
Well, I mean, it basically gives them liability protection. So it's the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And let me tell you, I am not an expert on this. I'm not going to purport that I'm an expert in tech law or in communications law, which is what this is. It's part of the FCC's, laws and regulations. But there's a Section 47 USC Section 230. It's just been on the news so much. We've all heard 230. They had congressional hearings about it. I'm sure you saw some of those hearings or clips of them where they had Zuckerberg and they had, who else come on? They had Jack Dorsey come on from Twitter and various people testify this. But it just basically says that if you're a provider or a user of an interactive computer service is the language that's there, that you're not treated as a publisher, or no, that you are treated as a publisher, which gives you special protections. A publisher or speaker of information provided by another information content provider. So that just basically means that you have the protections that you would in the publishing world, which is not, again, they're not subject to the same, they're not subject to the First Amendment. See, a lot of people don't realize this. Unless you are
the example I've heard that kind of makes sense, and I guess it simplifies it for people who don't quite understand what we're attempting to say. It's like the fact that I can call you using my cell phone, and if I say something that could get me in trouble, it doesn't. The cell phone provider doesn't get in trouble, right? So it's like they're not responsible for what we say while we're using their technology. To communicate, so they're just a provider of the technology.
Just a provider or a publisher.
A publisher, yes.
They're a publisher of the information. They're not actually, but they've gone beyond that though, Ricky. Here's the problem. So they're controlling what's on their platform, which I guess in the early days was okay when it was very small. Okay, it's a small.
Yeah, but it should have never been okay, because that's like somebody who owns the like I said, like if we were using landlines and they didn't like that maybe we were anti-big pharma or anti the COVID vaccine and they were pro the COVID vaccine, they decide that, hey, as the phone company, we don't want you using our technology to communicate these ideas we disagree with, so we're going to not let you talk to each other. So it's the same type of idea, right?
Well, I guess here's where I might disagree just a little bit. Hold on. Even though that would be a horrible scenario and it would lose, I don't think the phone companies would ever do it because they would lose a ton of business, obviously. Sorry, I just had to plug in there. I realized that I was losing power here. But yes, on the one hand, that sounds horrible. But on the other hand, the way our Constitution is set up, the way American government and society is set up, is that private companies should be able to do whatever the hell they want as long as they're not discriminating. Okay? Discriminating on the basis of a protected class. Okay? So protected class would be like religion, race, national origin, things like that. Okay? Creed. Those are protected classes. Just the fact that you don't like what someone's saying, you can do that if you're a private entity. You can't do that if you're the government. So the way they've been able to get away with it for so long, if you're just a publisher of information, number one, Section 230 protects you from whatever's being said on your platform, but also you can't be sued for violating the First Amendment because you're not the government. People don't realize the First Amendment and all of the amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights apply to government. Federal and state governments, okay, and municipalities. local, state, and federal governments cannot censor you, cannot infringe on your right to worship and your right to assemble. But a private company can absolutely say, you're not saying that in my workplace. You're not saying that in my business.
Well, they can say that, and I agree that they should have the right to, because it's your company. To the way I look at it is you have the right to do whatever the hell you want. If you don't like it, then use your money and to protest by using another provider, another company. But the reason why this becomes an issue is because you can't have both, right? You can't, like what Facebook and Twitter and social media is doing and YouTube is that they want to have the ability to remove them of all liability, but that if you do that, then that means you can't decide what to censor or not censor. Like the reason why they're granted that, I guess, the removal of all liability of how that platform is being used. The reason why if there's porn on Twitter or child porn on Twitter, I can't directly sue Twitter is because of, the fact that they're saying that, hey, we're just the technology. We're just the method of communication.
Right. You're absolutely right. So I didn't quite get that far. I was just trying to explain, basically what the act does. It protects them as a purveyor of information, I guess, as a platform for information. But yes, the reason they get that immunity is that they're not supposed to be. They're not really supposed to be involved in it, right? They're not involved in the speech. They're just giving the platform. But I'm going a step further with the constitutional argument, because there is a constitutional argument to be made here. And unfortunately, as I told you, I do have to run in just a moment, but I just want to say this. The First Amendment should apply to them, in my opinion. And the reason I'm saying that is they're no longer just a private entity anymore. They've become like the public square. And there is case law, if you look at Supreme Court precedent, and there's case law that talks about if a space becomes public, becomes like a public space, that the First Amendment protections can kick in there, even if it's technically owned by private property, because it's become a place where everybody gathers and the public is allowed to go there freely, free of charge. You don't have to pay to sign up for Facebook. Anybody can post anything, or used to be able to. But my point was, before they started censoring, for so many years, it became like the public square. So because it became like the public square, they now, in my opinion, are subject to the restrictions imposed upon the government for freedom of speech, the restrictions against censoring people, the restrictions against infringing on people in a public space. Because who here can deny that social media platforms are the public space of the 21st century? Who's going to deny that? You can't deny that.
Now that everybody's locked in their house, it's become even more of a yeah. I mean,
right.
Without a
That's
doubt.
The only place we can gather. So now I don't care that you're a private company anymore, because now you have billions of users worldwide that are congregated in these spaces, and now you're censoring them. You've decided that, just because I'm a private company, just because I have Section 230, I can do whatever I want. Now I can come down. No, you don't get that Section 230 immunity anymore, and you don't get immunity from the Bill of Rights anymore, particularly the First Amendment, in my opinion. So I think there's legitimate lawsuits to be brought here. Bill Barr said he was having the DOJ go after him, but maybe he'll get to that after he finishes all the hard work he's doing to undo election fraud. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Sorry. But anyway, it's really just it's very frustrating, and I want to continue the conversation about big tech censorship, and I want to thank you though. So we'll do that another time. I really want to thank you for having me on. I love your show. I think, like I said, I think what you do is awesome. I really appreciate, and I'm honored that you've continued to invite me back. So I must be doing something right.
Well, you are doing something right. You're in the front lines fighting for all the issues and topics that we're very passionate about. So, I think a lot of us in the podcast world, sometimes we feel like, hey, we should be doing more than just talking. But if the only thing we're doing is promoting people like yourself and people who are in the front lines and actually doing the hard work, then then we're all in this together. We're all doing our part. We're all helping each other. So, but thanks, Brian. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna have to get you in contact with some of those guests that you.
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
Send me an email, and then I'll also get you some contact information for some of those alternative platforms. I mean, there are actually Matt from Content Safe, when I was introduced to him, we talked for a long time, and a big portion of that conversation was about vaccines. It's one of those topics he's also very passionate about. So another guy that I'm sure he will connect with your passion and your
I'd like to
what you're
talk to
doing.
Matt. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me, Matt from Content Safe. I knew there was another. I was going through the list as you're saying it in my head of who I have to email. The names I have to email, and I knew there was a Matt, but I couldn't remember what.
Well, check out if you have time. I know you're busy, but if you're commuting or you have some time, play the last Union of The Unwanted in the background. It literally just revolved around this topic specifically.
Okay.
We had these people from Float, from Odyssey, Library, Rockfin, and Matt from Content Safe, and we focused on just these alternatives and really the FU to big tech and helping promote them. And also, we're trying to help the content creators and the platforms, because it's like, okay, as content creators, what do we like, what do we don't like? Maybe if we have questions, they could answer it, which they did. So somebody like yourself who's a content creator and has videos and wants to post them places, hopefully some of those questions were answered on that show. But if not, I'll get you their contact information. You can talk to them directly. And the thing is, this topic, I mean, all these new platforms are very passionate about, a place where you can share ideas without being censored. And what topic is more censored than vaccines and anything that's anti-big pharma? I mean, that's why people like yourself and myself, we could see we could foresee just the issue that this was going to become and how big of a fight it was going to become. And so, I mean, because we've been dealing with it for a long time and the alternative medicine and kind of, I guess, a vaccine debate. So yeah, I'll get you all that stuff. I don't want to hold you up anymore.
Awesome. Thank you, Ricky.
I'll definitely, email me and just remind me which guests you wanted to contact. And I'll also send you the rest of those contacts for those alternative platforms, and hopefully I see you next Monday on
I'm gonna try for it, and as soon as you get the podcast for tonight, the link, send it to me and I'll make sure to post it. I always like to put it up on the website. Again, WeThePatriotsUSA.org, CTFreedomAlliance.org, on Twitter at KeepCTFree, and at WeThePatriotsUS, also on Parler at WeThePatriotsUS. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you, Ricky, for having me on.
Yeah, and hopefully soon we'll be on Float, Odyssey, and Library. So let's hope so. Hey, Thanks, Brian.
All
hey,
right, take care. Hey, have a good night.
Yeah, you too.